All right, we are focusing on solving rational equations now. So we're putting a lot of things together. So we're going to solve x plus 8 over x equals 6. Now, think of this as normal fractions. So when we add fractions together, we have to have a common denominator. Same thing is going to apply here. So everything I want to have the same denominator for. So x has a denominator of 1, 8 has a denominator of x, and then 6 has a denominator of 1. So I've got 1, x, and 1. So a great common denominator is going to be x. And the way that I'll get that is I'm going to multiply x over 1 top and bottom by x. 8 over x I don't have anything to do to. And then 6 over 1 I'll multiply top and bottom by x. So this ends up being x squared over x plus 8 over x equals 6x over x. All right, what's awesome about solving rationals is once you have a common denominator for everything, you can completely get rid of the denominator. So now all I'm dealing with is x squared plus 8 equals 6x. And I'm going to solve for x now. And this is a quadratic, which means I want to put everything over on the same side. So I'm going to subtract 6x. So now I'm dealing with x squared minus 6x plus 8 equals 0. And I'm going to see if I can factor. So factors of positive 8 that add up to negative 6 are negative 4 and negative 2. So this is x minus 4, x minus 2 equals 0. And then to go from my factors to my solutions, I'll just set each factor equal to 0 and solve. So x minus 4 equals 0, which means x equals 4. And then x minus 2 equals 0, which means x equals 2. And before I call it good, I'm going to take my solutions and plug them in to my denominator and make sure that it doesn't make my denominator equal 0. So if I plug in 4, I have a denominator of 4. If I plug in 2, I'll have a denominator of 2, so that works. So I have two solutions, and my two solutions are 4 and 2. Okay, next up I have 10 over 3 equals 4 over x plus 2. So I want to get a common denominator. So right now, 2 over 1. So I've got a denominator of 3, x, and 1. So a good common denominator is going to be 3x. So I'm going to multiply 10 over 3, top and bottom by x. 4 over x, top and bottom by 3. And then 2 over 1, top and bottom by 3x. So I end up with 10x over 3x equals 12 over 3x plus 6x over 3x. Okay, now that I have a common denominator for everything, I can get rid of the denominator. So now what I'm dealing with is 10x equals 12 plus 6x. And I'm going to solve for x now. So I'm going to subtract 6x. So 4x equals 12. Divide by 4. So I get that x equals 3. And my very last step is I'm going to plug in 3 into my denominator and make sure that I don't end up with a denominator of 0. So I'm going to come over here to my common denominators, and if I plug in 3 right there, 3 times 3 is 9. I'd have a denominator of 9, which is completely okay. So x equals 3 is my solution. Okay, I have 3x over x minus 3 equals 2x plus 3 over x minus 3. This one's already set up for us. We already have a common denominator, so we can get rid of it. So I'm dealing with 3x equals 2x plus 3. I can subtract 2x now to solve for x, and I get that x equals 3. Before I circle my answer and call it good, though, I need to plug it in to my denominator and see if I'm getting a denominator of 0. If I plug in 3 for either x, I'll have 3 minus 3, which is 0. I can never have 0 in the denominator, so x cannot equal 3, which means this problem has no solution. Had there been 2 solutions and one of the solutions didn't work, then I would just circle whichever one was correct. Okay, so it's possible that one of your solutions doesn't work, but the other does. It's possible that you can have multiple solutions that don't work. Okay, so always double check your answers. Last step, I have 2x minus 9 over x minus 7 plus x over 2 equals 5 over x minus 7. So I need to get a common denominator. So x minus 7, 2, and x minus 7, which means I have a good common denominator of 2 times x minus 7. So 2x minus 9, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 2. X over 2, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by x minus 7. And then 5 over x minus 7, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 2. So this is 4x minus 18 over 2 times x minus 7 plus x squared minus 7x over 2 times x minus 7 equals 10 over 2 times x minus 7. And now that I have a common denominator, I can get rid of them. So I have, and I'm going to go ahead and combine like terms. So I get x squared minus 3x. I'm going to move this minus 10 over. So minus 28 equals 0. And I'm going to see if I can factor since it's quadratic. So factors of negative 28 that add up to negative 3 are negative 7 and positive 4. So x minus 7, x plus 4 equals 0. Now to go from my solution, from my factors to my solutions, I'll set each factor equal to 0 and solve, which means x equals 7 and x equals negative 4. And now always double check your solution. So if I plug in 7 for x, 7 minus 7 is 0, and 2 times 0 is 0. So I cannot have 0 in my denominator. So x cannot equal 7. And then if I plug in negative 4 minus 7 is negative 11, and negative 11 times 2 is negative 22. So that works. So I have one solution, and that one solution is negative 4. And that is it for solving rational equations today.